Hi, I'm Rev Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for 40 years. I'm going through the text this year again. I'm reading it a paragraph or two at a time and asking Jesus to clarify for me. And then I write from that clarity. And that's what I'm sharing with you today. So let's get started. We're reading A Course in Miracles, Chapter 6, Section 5B. To have peace, teach peace, to learn it. Today we're going to read paragraphs 6 and 7. Paragraph 6 says, there can be no conflict between sanity and insanity. Only one is true, and therefore only one is real. The ego tries to persuade you that it is up to you to decide which voice is true. But the Holy Spirit teaches you that truth was created by God, and your decision cannot change it. As you begin to realize the quiet power of the Holy Spirit's voice and its perfect consistency, it must dawn on your mind that you are trying to undo a decision that was irrevocably made for you. This is why I suggested that you remind yourself to allow the Holy Spirit to decide for God for you. So I've been living with the misconception that deciding what reality is up to me. I have only two options. I can believe the ego version of reality, or I can believe what I hear from the Holy Spirit. But regardless of which I choose to believe, I do not affect reality. Only the Holy Spirit speaks the truth. I don't get to decide what is true, only if I want to believe the truth. Reality is not up for grabs. Seriously, I am tired of choosing insanity. I'm ready to awaken from the dream and live consistently from the truth. I can do this, and it's simple to do so. As soon as I recognize that I've chosen the wrong voice, and this is when I'm not wholly at peace and in joy, I choose again. I choose the truth by allowing the Holy Spirit to decide for God for me. I really don't need to make it any more complicated than that, and the desire to do anything else is just a delaying tactic. Here's something from my journal that happened while I was still working. This morning, I have felt mildly anxious about the weather. Should I go to work or stay off the icy streets? Are they really icy, or did the meteorologist overstate the situation? It doesn't seem like a big deal, but the ego makes it a big deal. Using the ego mind, I go back in time to other times when I had bad weather and use that experience to make this decision. And this is not helpful because that time was not exactly like this time. In that time, I made the decision based on shaky evidence as well. I'm dragging the past into the present, which guarantees the future will be the same as the past. And this is not what I want to do anymore. This is not joyful or peaceful. And so it is not reality, regardless of how deeply involved I become in ego thinking about it. The ego mind takes into consideration what my boss will think. And soon I find myself having this imaginary conversation with her in which I defend my decision. And soon I notice I'm angry with her. She hasn't said a word, actually, and I don't know what she would say. I just project my anxiety onto her, making her guilty instead of me, and base my decision on this highly suspect information. In projecting, I am perceived wrongly. I'm reinforcing the belief in separation and the belief in attack as defense. I'm teaching myself that I'm vulnerable and need defense, and that my brother is my enemy. This is not joyful or peaceful. So I'm not living in reality, even though I'm using the ego mind to make it seem real. Did I say I was mildly anxious? By now, the anxiety level is rising considerably. This is just an example of how I think I can affect reality. I hear everything going on in my mind, and I believe what I hear. I believe that I'm a victim of the weather and an uncaring boss, and that my very life is in danger if I make the wrong decision. The Holy Spirit waits patiently for me to turn to him to hear the truth. Finally, I ask him to decide for God for me, and I get on with my morning writing and posting. I wonder how the story will end. When I got to this journal on the text, I saw what a good example my earlier anxiety was for this very paragraph. That happens a lot. My life gives me an opportunity to practice what it is I'm here to learn today. So I started writing about it. When I got to the part about my imaginary argument with my boss, my phone beeped, and I saw that I had a text from her. It said that the bridges were closed and she wouldn't go to work unless it was safe. By now, I was no longer anxious because I had asked to know the truth rather than to pretend to make up my own reality. And it just made me smile to see how simply and perfectly the story unfolded without my interference. Paragraph 7. You're not asked to make insane decisions, although you can think you are. It must, however, be insane to believe that it is up to you to decide what God's creations are. The Holy Spirit perceives the conflict exactly as it is, and therefore his second lesson is to have peace, teach peace to learn it. I've been looking at attack thoughts and how they teach me I am vulnerable. Mostly I don't attack. When I do, I catch it and ask that my mind be held of the belief in attack. I see in this section of the text why I don't want to attack. When I attack myself or others, I don't think there's any difference. I am insane. In attacking, I'm deciding what God's creations are. I don't read the paper or watch the news very much. I have an app on my phone that gives me a few headlines every day, much of it local. As I would read these apps, which often came with pictures of the miscreants, I would notice my judgmental thoughts. Sometimes it was just a passing thought, and sometimes the judgment had a lot more venom. Regardless of how strongly I felt about it, I am judging. And my judgment is saying that I am deciding who this one is. I'm disregarding God's decision that his creation is good and that he is well pleased with his son. Instead, I'm declaring that this one does not live up to that divine declaration. I'm saying that he is something else. This, of course, opens a possibility or a probability that I am not what God created either. In a single casual judgment, I have in my mind undone what God has done. No wonder I believe in guilt and fear and think I live a life of suffering, so frightening and painful that death seems the only solution. And even in that, I am redefining reality despite God, who knows nothing of pain, suffering, and death. I am so insane. It's a temporary insanity, though, and there is a solution. There is within my mind a failsafe, the answer to my insanity. The Holy Spirit is placed in the mind where the confusion exists. It undoes the insane thinking as I'm ready to let it go. There are many prayers, lessons, affirmations, and mantras that I can use to help me decide that I want healing. But the desire to be released allows the Holy Spirit to heal me. Now, when I read those news blurbs, especially when there's a picture, I look into their eyes and tell them the truth. I tell them that they're innocent, that nothing they have done or that has been done to them changes that. And I tell them that it is insane to believe they can undo what God has done. And despite appearances, it cannot happen. I tell them the truth about themselves. And so I learn the truth about me. I teach peace rather than attack. Thus, I teach peace to learn peace. Thank you so much for joining with me in this reading. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did, then please like it. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. And I'll be back soon with another reading. See you then.